Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic, and welcome back to the YouTube channel, everybody. And today we are doing another Celebration Cinema review for the 10-year anniversary of Captain America, The Winter Soldier. This is a film. Last year I reviewed Captain America Civil War. I love that film. That is one of my favorite films of all time, and also the one that shaped my life. Winter Soldier, while I do love, I will say it's a film that I don't watch as much, and it's also a film that I think is very overrated. Mainly because I personally feel like it gets too much love. Like I said, there's a lot of great stuff when it comes to the action, the way that it reinvented the genre for comic book movies, and the way that it basically made Captain America awesome. Lots of stuff to discuss with this film, so let's go ahead and get started talking about Captain America, The Winter Soldier. And obviously the first thing we're going to talk about here, usually whenever I talk about great films of Celebration Cinema, the first thing I usually talk about is the story and the storytellers that told it. And obviously I think the storytellers with the Russo brothers are fantastic. They're easily some of the best MCU directors we've ever gotten. And I also think the way that they told their story was fantastic. Part of what makes these Phase 2 sequels kind of interesting is when you get to this film, you know, you had a year before this, we had Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World come out, which were mixed bags, but all they were was just continuing the worlds of those characters after the Avengers, which I would say some parts were enjoyable and some parts didn't necessarily work. And so that's kind of what Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World were about. It's about them going back to their worlds after the Avengers, and they're now figuring out who they are. And with Captain America, because, you know, the first Avengers was kind of the first film where we got to see him after the Avengers, we're now in this film where he doesn't really have a place in the world. He was frozen for 70 years, everyone that he knows and loves is dead, and he's stuck in the present, and he can't really go back. So all he has, but just because you're stuck in the present doesn't mean you can't stop fighting. He's still going to keep on being Captain America. He's still got the shield, and now he's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. now. And so there's an interesting factor to that. But I think what makes this movie so great is that it's able to, because, you know, the first film was a war film mixed with a couple of cool action. This movie is a political thriller where it mixes in some of these politics, and, you know, I love that the movie takes place in Washington, D.C., as it's like, we're not doing, you know, sort of Captain America Avengers style in New York. We're going in Washington, D.C., a location that's never really been seen in the MCU until now, and it's pretty great. And by the time, like, obviously I love the boat sequence where he's trying to rescue the hostages. And you start to see that Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. do things a little differently. And then you start to realize S.H.I.E.L.D. has this big base. And Nick Fury has this thing called Project Insight, which basically can eliminate any enemy that comes in our way, which I think is an interesting topic that saves up for later. And up to the point where Nick Fury gets attacked in the car, and then he gets shot, everything starts to crumble. People start betraying. People start trying to get Captain America, trying to get Steve, and you start to realize when you get to the Arnim Zola scene that because they took Arnim Zola, and even though Red Skull died and all the Hydra soldiers passed, because Arnim Zola was part of S.H.I.E.L.D. when S.H.I.E.L.D. was created, a secret Hydra was created inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Nobody knew about it. And they're secretly trying to take over the world through S.H.I.E.L.D. And so I think that's the interesting thing, like, it builds up the mythology, like, this whole world, like, all these years when Captain America was thought to have been dead. That he secretly was kind of dead, and people thought Hydra was dead too, so it's like, you think about it, they're all coming back. And it's so interesting. And then you realize, like, Alexander Pierce is leading them, the strike team is leading them, and then you realize you have this mad assassin that happens to be Bucky and Winter Soldier, that they took the friend of Captain America and made him an assassin, and it builds for some very emotional fight scenes. And so, yeah, I think that the story of this movie really works, especially in the political aspect of it, the political thriller aspect, whether it comes to the characters or really just a lot of the action sequences. There's just a lot of great stuff with the story of here. So, the story here is the best parts. The Russo brothers nailed it perfectly. Another great thing about this movie are, of course, the characters. Personally, I love the characters in the way they were done in this movie. Obviously, Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Captain America in here was, of course, absolutely fantastic. He's great, and he once captures that performance well. But in this film, this is where you start to realize Captain America is really cool. In the first Avenger, yeah, he's really cool. The Avengers, he's more like this goody two-shoes guy. This one, he's awesome, but he has this moral compass where there's no such thing as good and bad. It's kind of all in between. And once again, that makes sense in light of how the world has changed. Like, not only has he come to a world where everything is advanced, there's tons of superheroes now, but also you never know who could be working for who. And that's what brings the movie to a great assault that I should have talked about in the story aspect. Also, the other characters in here, of course, you get Scarlett Johansson back as Black Widow. I would say this is a very unique version of her where we get to explore more about her. And it's fun because we get... This film, I feel like, starts out the relationship between her and Steve. You also get Anthony Mackie as Falcon in here. I thought he was a good addition to it. And just being a fanboy over Captain America, that's just so fun. Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. He's pretty great in here. Maria Hill, she's always good. The introduction to Sharon Carter was cool. All the villains in here. Frank Grillo as Frank Rumlow. He was cool, even though I prefer more as Crossbones. You also get Alexander Pierce. He's a pretty intimidating villain. Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier. He nailed this role out of the park. I mean, just being this frightening character is just so... You never could be this frightening. You never could be this frightening and kill so many people, but also have amazing fights with Captain America. It's great. And so, yeah, all the little elements flesh out well together. All the characters are fleshed out well. So that's my thoughts on the characters in this movie. Another thing about this movie is the political aspect of it. And personally, I love that, once again, I love that it dives into history of how Hydra took over S.H.I.E.L.D. and all of this stuff, and was secretly taking over S.H.I.E.L.D. Because Nick Fury is dead now, we now have access to Project Insight. And even when it comes down to the music, the little, the confirmed, or really just the action sequences, it all plays down. Like, I love the way that it turned to a thriller that is political. So I love it. And the final thing we'll talk about here is the action sequences. This is really where I feel like in the Captain America franchise, the action just became this really good stuff. To where, yeah, you have your silly explosions or whatever, but really, like, the boat sequence is the perfect example of what type of action we're getting from this film. Where basically you have Captain America beating the crap out of these dudes, but, like, he's beating them simultaneously. He's beating them easily. But it's really cool stuff. He's, like, martial artist or whatever. It's like, it is just awesome. The fight with him and Batroc on the boat was also really fun. I also just really liked, what is it? Of course, the elevator scene. The elevator fight scene. That's one of the most popular fights talked about today. Just all the action in this movie, whether it's really cool or emotional, you get it in here, and it's awesome. So I love this movie. I think it's It's overrated, but it's still a great MCU film. I still do love it. And that's my thoughts on Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.